A very warm welcome to everyone who's joining us for a very special episode of Leader Speak. This is a podcast in which we introduce great leaders, thought leaders, innovators, especially from the entertainment supply chain. And we have the privilege of having Naveen Chandra today with us, founder CEO of 91 Film Studios, joining us all the way from the other side of the planet. So, Naveen, you're in Mumbai. A very warm welcome to Vitrina Leader Speak.
Thank you, Atul, and thank you for having me on your show. I think it's a privilege to speak to you after the pandemic now. I think we last met
That's
much
great.
before the pandemic,
That's
and
right.
we last met actually 20 years back in Bombay. But good to meet you again after 20 years. A lot of things have changed. When we met last, there was no Facebook. There was hardly any YouTube. There was a Google.
That's
So I
right.
think times have changed. Yeah.
That's right. And I mean, the industry has changed. We've had the pandemic behind us. We've had all sorts of corrections in the industry. The box office has gone through a transformation. Streaming has emerged. Cable has completely sort of in a different zone altogether from when we met.
Right.
Years ago. And you've changed, a full new avatar. So you're now a filmmaker. You were in the heart of the
Business
Mumbai
side of things. Yeah.
television,
Yeah.
business, publishing, radio. You've done a bunch of things, and we've actually met in those times. But when I meet you today, I'm introducing you as a filmmaker. So it was lovely catching up when we did a few days ago, and thanks for being on Leader Speak. I'm very curious to have you tell your story, and also the story in terms of the way the Indian film industry, especially regional cinema, is changing, and the business dynamics of that entire segment. So
Right.
I'm hoping for a very exciting conversation with you today.
Well, I hope so too. The pleasure's all mine. I love the work that you're doing at Vitrina. I think some amazing stuff that you've started doing there. But
Thank you.
happy to share all that I know. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, look, I think the best place to start is really from an elevator pitch. How do you introduce 91 Film Studios? What is it that you're trying to do? If you can lay a little bit of the land of what the business model and the lines of business are, that'd be a great start to our conversation.
Okay. So I mean, I have to wind back a bit to see why I actually created 91 Film Studios. So essentially, about a couple of years before the pandemic, I had won the Michael Porter Prize for Strategy. And Michael
Wow.
Porter, when he met me for dinner, the only question he asked me is, "Do you have a personal strategy?" And I was thinking, I'm having fun. I had worked on brands like Radio Mirchi all the way to Ghana.com. I had launched ET Now. I had launched Movies Now. I had acquired Willow TV in the US for the Times Group. Done Times Now. I had taken Times Now and Zoom to 102 countries around the world, and subsequently, to about 120 countries around the world. So I was thinking, all right. And so what is it that I need to do as a personal strategy? And with radio, I remember we launched radio, and I took radio to 48% of the radio revenue share in India. So there was nothing much to do in all those sectors. And when I put it all together as a helicopter view, I realized that I had done print, I had done radio, I had done television, I had done digital, I had done the whole piece. And in fact, I also played a part in the Times OH, sales and strategy for their bid for the out of home. So the only missing piece in the entire media spectrum that I didn't have in my portfolio was films. And I have been a film watcher since my childhood. Dad was in the army, and in the army they have the system that every Friday, I don't know now, but I remember when I was growing up, every Friday there would be a screen, and the whole unit would watch the film together, right? And it was fascinating. It was an experience as I grew up to watch all those movies, and I've been watching movies ever since. My record was 21 movies in 21 consecutive days. That was my record, set in 1994 or 5 or something like that, right? So it was in the back, but I never looked at it as a profession. I never looked at it as something that I would ever do in my life. I was a content, I was enjoyer of great stories, and I loved the whole, movie space. But for the first time, I looked at it as a business. So somewhere around the 2016-17 time, I met about 150 different people in the film business, writers, producers, all kinds of people across the spectrum, across the country. And honest confession, Times of India card gives you very high access in this country.
It does. Yeah.
I just met everybody, and I realized that for any business, and I'm a first generation entrepreneur. We don't have entrepreneurs in the family at all. So I said, all right. I mean, as a business exists only because there is a need. You can't just want to do something because you want to do it, right? There has to be need in the marketplace. So I said, all right. I mean, and using my, whatever thinking, I said, all right. Let me distill it down to a need. Is there a consumer need? Is there a business need that is not being met right now? And can I then build a business on top of it? And then I realized there are three needs, right? The first need I realized is that 50% first insight that I sort of landed on was that 50% of the films that get out to get made don't get completed. So
Wow.
whatever conversations
Huh.
I'm having with people, they all said, I've got a film, I'm stuck with a little finance, I can't seem to finish the film. And I need a little bit of bridge financing to finish the film. So there are 50% people were stuck. So everybody, I mean, there were people like bankers, businessmen, corporate, all kinds of people who had invested in a film and got stuck midway. The second insight I realized landed on was that 50% of the films that got completed did not get distributed. They did not hit the theaters, right? And then I realized the
Huh.
reason is that here's a cloth merchant from Satara who's put 2.5 crore rupees in making a film. He has no idea what to do with the film after it is done. The director finishes the film and gives him the film. He says, "Congratulations, here's your film." Now he has no idea. He's a cloth merchant in Satara, but he's put his money, hard-earned money, and he says, "Okay, I want to do this film." Because a calling card, it's what I call Tushan capital, is to tell people that listen, I produced the film. But anyway, the cost of that is film is ready. How does he do? What does he do next? Director's done. In his CV, director's added that I made a film. But this man has no
Right.
idea. And he doesn't know how to reach out to an Amazon, a Netflix, a theater chain, how to distribute the film. He has no
Hmm.
idea. So 50% of
Huh.
money is lost like that. And the third insight I had is that the moment I said I'm getting into the film business, tons and tons of people started sending me scripts saying, "Listen, I have a script, I have a script." And I collected 300-400 scripts, right, in the 2-3 years at that point of time. And then I realized that, all right, I mean, there is no way these guys can understand where to go for capital. So there is no source
Hmm.
where they can write, okay, I am applying my film to this place so that somebody can fund it. There is absolutely no, uh, place where people can fund films in India. And so there were a lot of great talent out there with some amazing stories, but no place to get funding, right? So I distilled all my findings from those 150 meetings across the country into three things. 50% films don't get completed, 50% films don't get distributed, and a lot of talent out there that doesn't know where to go for money. So I said, therefore, the solution to this, and that's the need, is to create a organized capital pool. And how do you create an organized capital pool that can then solve these three problems? And that's when I landed on this concept called the fund, right? And I am not a finance guy, right?
Hmm.
I'm an engineer, so I don't know finance, but I can build things. So I said, all right. I started, and believe me, again, here's where the card came handy again, the visiting card. I started attending all the private equity, venture capital, finance summits in Bombay. Bombay is the financial capital of India, and I sort of attending these events to understand how money works in India. I mean, what does organized capital really mean?
Hmm.
And after tons of meetings, I realized, all right, there is a pool. There's a lot of money in India. There's a lot of capital available in India. Indian economy is growing leaps and bounds. And when I launched ET now, I had seen how the stock market actually works. And from the inside, I've seen how the analysts work, how stock market really works. Because ET now launching gave me terrific exposure to the system of stocks and mutual funds and all that. And so I said, all right, let me just go around
Hmm.
and find the format of the organized capital structure. And then I landed on a company,
Hmm.
which is a boutique investment banking company in London. And they said, all right, let's do a fund. So that's how the idea of the fund came about. It was called
Hmm.
the Storytellers Fund. It was a category 2 alternate investment fund that we started to structure. And we said we'll raise $25 million in it. And in 29
Hmm.
February, I quit the Times of India to launch the fund along with my, boutique investment advisory firm from London. And in May 2019, I applied for the fund to
Okay.
SEBI. And this is serendipitous, right? In 1991, I used to work in a company called Cesa, and the account head of that company was a gold medalist chartered accountant. And SEBI had just been formed in 91, 92. And SEBI was rounding up all the gold medalist CAs across the country and they hired this person,
Wow.
in their ranks in SEBI, and he was the executive director of SEBI in 2019, who was my colleague in
Whoa.
1991. And I
Gosh.
said, buddy, how simple can this world be? So I went and met him. He explained to me the structure, explained to me how it works. He explained me the cautions that I should take, the precautions, and et cetera, et cetera. And he said, you must apply, and if
Hmm.
it all works well, maybe you'll get through. So I applied in May 2019. I got my license for a Category 2 AIF from SEBI in December 2019. There was a series of rounds. There were a lot of questions
Okay.
asked. But we sort of went through all of those rounds, and I got my license in December 2019, and I was so interested. And I said, in this whole thematic of the organized capital fund I'm doing, I said I am not going to
Hmm.
do Hindi, because in my conversations, Hindi was a language everybody does in the country. Every single actor, every single producer wants to do Hindi. There is a
Hmm.
way in
Right.
Hindi, Bollywood, to raise capital, and I said, I don't want to do that. So I don't want to do Hindi at all. So I was like very, very clear, sharply focused. And well, in a way to say, I sort of was very, very clear it has to be regional, right? And from day one,
Hmm.
I've only focused on regional. On January 17th, 2020, I wrote an article,
Hmm.
right? In the Business World magazine, which was like, like every year, Anurag would ask me to write one article for the next 10 years of the media. So I wrote an article that this decade will be the decade of regional. Jan 17th, 2020. My fund license came in December 2019. And April 31st, I was supposed to close my fund, the first close of the fund, right? And then, as God's wanted it, in March, there was a
The
pandemic,
pandemic.
right? And on
That's right.
March 10th, I think was Holi. March 9th, I had a meeting in Baroda that got cancelled. March 12th, my meetings got cancelled. March 15th, the pandemic was announced. And suddenly I was like, all right, I mean, 1 year of effort, and
Yeah.
all of that effort, and and then there's a pandemic, and everything came to
Right.
an absolute standstill. But
Hmm.
then I said, all right, that's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, once having chosen the direction, one has to keep going. One can't just pivot so early. So I said, all right, let me. So I had assembled a team. I had actually got a very good team from, people who worked in Z Studios, people who worked in PVR, people who worked in Carnival Motion Pictures, people who had worked in Yash Raj Films, people who worked in Whistling
Hmm.
Woods, and so
Oh,
I'd got a
wow.
good team of 7 8 people across industries, across experiences, right? And I said, all right, let's just get on with it, and listen to stories. So then
Hmm.
came the third part, which is that I had now received about 300, 350 stories, right? And I didn't really know how to exactly find out what is a good story and what is a what's a story that's worth producing and what is not. And amongst all the skills I realized, amongst all the skills in making a film, every single skill, there is tremendous amount of talent out there, right? If you have the money, that talent will work for you, right? You just have to provide
Right.
capital. You don't need to learn direction. You don't need to learn cinematography. You don't need to learn, I mean, art, or choreography, or you don't need to learn anything, or post production. You just need actually to know how to tell a good story and which story to tell, right? So those are the two challenges. So what I had actually done as part of this part three of the exercise is I had joined. I initially said, "All right, I want to learn." I mean, one is always a storyteller when you're doing business and sales and all of that. But I said
That's
structured
right.
storytelling for a 2-hour film format
Hmm.
is something that I didn't know at all. So I said, all right, let me
Hmm.
join a course and do a course. So I joined Anupam Kher's Actor Prepares. Anupam Kher used to be a frequenter in Times Now, but I joined his academy. It's a 90-day course spread over multiple weeks uh,
Right.
on screenplay writing, right? So I did that 90-day
Hmm.
course. I was the oldest in the class at 50 years of age. I remember the youngest was a girl who introduced herself as saying, I am 16. That was her only introduction. I said, amazing. So I did that course. And after 90 days, I had, some knowledge of screenplay writing. Not enough. And I wanted more. So then went and joined the Whistling Wood School, Subhash Ghai School, and Anjum Rajavali was a terrific teacher. I think I learned a lot from him. I have attended
Hmm.
multiple workshops of his, and wherever he takes it, I make it a point to go and attend. I attended in Goa, I attended in Whistling Woods campus, and all that. So I did that second part. Then still not satisfied, I went and joined FTI and finished the screenplay writing course. So I've done 3 screenplay writing course, and that's the
Wow.
only thing I've done in films. Yeah, and so parallelly, I said, all right, let me just learn how to tell a story. So after the pandemic hit, I
Hmm.
circled the team together on Zoom, and I said, all right, let us just listen to these stories, the
Hmm.
300 stories, right? And I think the interesting part of what happened is that before the pandemic, if I wanted to listen to a Tamil story, we had to fly the director down from, I mean, the director would fly down from Chennai, the writer would fly from Coimbatore, and some co-producer would fly from Tirunelveli, and they'd take 3 flights, come to Bombay. We would give them an
Wow.
hour or 2 hours of our time. They would listen to it. We would listen to them. We would give them our pointers, and they would go back, right? And then we'll meet again after a few weeks. So there was a lot of,
Hmm.
I mean, it was like a very slow
A
process.
lot of logistics involved. Yeah.
Absolutely. On the other hand, on Zoom, what I realized is it was a godsend gift because I told my team 11 o'clock onwards till 6 o'clock every single day, just set up calls at the gap of 2 hours to each person. So,
Hmm.
Punjabi film, writer is in Canada, a director is in Chandigarh, co producer is in Delhi. All right, put them on Zoom call. We are all on Zoom. We listen to the story. Right? Like that, we
Wow.
finished 300 stories in 3 months. Right? With
Gosh.
discipline, with rigor, no Saturday, no Sunday, every single day, we just listen to stories. And it was the most amazing experience of my life, right?
Wow.
So all that I had learned in storytelling, all that I had learned in my screenplay writing, and all these stories that came to me, I said, wow, this is amazing. At the end of, I think, July, yeah, April, May, June, July, 4 months, we had
Hmm.
shortlisted 25 stories from these 300 stories that we had listened to. It was quite an achievement. So in a way, the pandemic, sort of worked for us. We were able to distill, find time, and everybody was available. Everybody was available on Zoom. Nobody was doing anything.
Hmm.
Everybody was at home. They were sitting. Nobody was on commute, taking a flight. Nobody doing anything. They were all available. The biggest directors, the smallest, writers, all every corner of the country, they were all available on Zoom. It was fascinating.
Wow.
And we would we listened to all the 300, I think 325 maybe at last count, and we selected 25. We said, okay, these 25 let's do. And then I got back to fundraising, right? So then I got back to fundraising, and then what happened is that I was essentially, those initial fundraise one that we had done, some of them had fizzled out because of the pandemic. So I changed my strategy. I raised new capital, and in the middle of the pandemic, October 1st, 2020, I started a company raising literally $5 million to make films, regional language feature
Got it.
films, and
Right.
that's how the journey started. And of course, I mean, it's not been like entrepreneurship journey is like up and down every single day. But
Of
yeah,
course.
we're at
Yeah.
it. Done about 8 films till now.
Okay.
Production, distribution, Malayalam, Bengali, Punjabi, Marathi, Tamil, so all kinds of languages, and the journey
Wow.
continues. So that's pretty much been the ethos, and the regional is the focus, regional feature film.
Understood. Understood. So, no, this is super exciting. Again, when we had our earlier chat, that was a very, very inspiring story, just in terms of the sort of the idea stage to the final execution, and the entire sort
Right,
of journey was quite fascinating. The script writing part also is very, very exciting. I mean, you're absolutely right. That is the key skill to sort of cherry pick which stories to tell, and then how to tell those
correct,
stories, right?
correct.
I have a few a couple of other questions actually. So just I mean, from a model perspective. So for these 8 films, how is the model? How is your model structured?
So in filmmaking, generally, I realize now that there is no single model for every film. Every film comes with
Right.
very very different models. Uh, Largely, the models are, there are 3 parts of a film. What I call the 3 parts: the art, the science, and the
Okay.
commerce. Right. The
Hmm.
the commerce part is, how do you fund the film and how do you recover your money? Now that's the commerce
Hmm.
part. I mean, essentially to find out, how do you raise capital for it and how do you recover the money? And primary, there are various ways you can fund it. uh, you know I don't do debt at all. So I've realized right in the beginning,
Okay.
I'm a fudgy kid. I don't have like a big factory I'm churning cash and putting in. As
Yeah.
a 4G kid, you don't really have too many resources. So I said, all right, I will not do debt. I'll only do equity. So the
Hmm.
thesis is only equity. They give equity participation
Okay.
to financiers. They put money on equity. I deliver the product. and then they get their the returns. The key part about the film is always the IP, because the IP is the
Yep.
perpetual value in the film. IP is something that after 10
Yes.
years, 25 years, it's like if you've sold a LSE premium, it's like your incentive check that keeps coming. Right? So the IP is the one that can really be monetized. I mean, what happens to the film in its first run is what happens to the film in the first run. But what really makes money is the perpetual IP that you hold. So that is one thing that I keep. Investor returns is, depending on the film. A couple of models that I normally follow. One is that I always have a co-producer model. Because I always say that films is the most risky business, right? It's the highest risk business. And if I have loved a story, I need somebody else also to love the story and put in money. So I will never do a film in which I just love the story. When I love the story, I'll never do the film. I want somebody else to be also excited about that film, which means the story has some merit. And I also want him to put 50% of the money so that, it's not just he's saying, great, you're doing a great film. No, you put the money. So then I know that it feels as great to you as it's feeling to me. So I divide the risk and I divide the spoils. I said, fine. If it makes a blockbuster profit, we will both enjoy it. It's a risky business, equal risk, equal rewards. And that's one principle that I always do. And secondly, I don't take capital per film, right? The bigger filmmakers who do large value films, large budget films, they take capital for one single film and execute it and do that. I don't do that. Take it for a slate, right? Again, the idea is to de-risk, right? One can work and tank.
Right.
In spite of everything that you've done, you can still tank. One can just about return money. One can make a loss. One can make a huge loss. One can get washed out, and one can become an outstanding blockbuster, right? But if I have a slate, and you sort of get money into the slate, then it's slightly easier to divide risk and get people to participate in the slate format. So these are some of the basic principles that I follow. Fund. The idea is not to because when I was doing the fund was locked, right? So you had a 5-year tenure. So all investors were locked in for 5 years. And the best part about the fund is that you get your pool of capital, let's say 25 million that I was trying for, and 25 million is locked for 5 years. In 5 years, you can churn, make films, losses, profit, extraordinary profits, put it all together, and you have a great return that you can get to the investor. But the moment you do movie by movie, if you're extremely lucky, you can, a lot of things can go wrong or go right.
Got it.
It depends, right? So it's a question of de-risking. It's a principle of de-risking that one follows for this business, given that unlike television or OTT, it is a high risk. It's no doubt about it.
It's a high risk business, correct? So, Naveen, look, we deal with currently the supply chain across 100 countries.
Right.
And, so, Hollywood, of course, is the largest. The US is the largest. And then, of course, we have a customer base across different countries: Canada, UK, Brazil, Australia, Japan, so on and so forth. In all my dealings, the Indian film industry is the most misunderstood. People just have not been able to wrap their heads around the, India as a market, because it's highly fragmented. There are multiple languages. Most people sort of paint this big fat brush on India, saying Bollywood. But Bollywood, we all understood that, that Bollywood is not representative of Indian cinema. And, you actually took a contrarian view of actually sort of moving away from Hindi cinema and going into regional. So I do want you to be the spokesperson of regional cinema in India, to really explain, how is it different? And B, why did you write in 2020 that this was going to be the decade for, regional cinema? Like, what was the big insight there? So two things, if you can unpack regional cinema, and then the second is, why do you think this is a decade for everyone who's like excited about Bollywood or painting India with this big fat brush? Why are they wrong?
First, let's leave whether they're wrong or not aside. Okay, it's not. I'm not saying this is right or this is wrong. I'm just saying it's
sure.
So let me start from the film business in India and why is it misunderstood and all. Actually, largely what happens is that India, let's say even today, this year maybe will make about 17, 18 films in the whole year. By and large, the way Indian market works is 90 or more than 90% of the producers are one-time producers. They will produce one film in their lifetime and vanish into the blue. Right? Whether they make a profit or they make a loss, right?
Wow.
because they wanted a calling card. They are doing a lathe machine business, right? They are working in a leather manufacturing business in Agra. They have a tannery, and maybe it is India's biggest tannery, right?
There are a host of folks in the Bay
Bay
Area,
Area. That's right, in the
from
Bay Area.
Andhra or
Correct,
Telangana,
correct,
who actually would love to make a movie,
right.
right? And
There
put
are
their name
tons
on
of
it. Yeah.
people in the Bay Area. I have met a lot of people in the Bay Area.
That's right. That's right.
And when you meet
That's right.
them, this is how people introduce themselves. They say, listen, my name is this. I have just sold my company to Visa for $900 million. The other guy
Right.
says, listen, I am this. I have sold my company to ACC for $15 million. So their calling card in life is just how much did they sell the company for. But suddenly, amongst all those
Right.
7 people, one guy would say,
Yeah.
listen, I made a film with Dimple Kapadia in 1980. Say, man, he's the guy. He's the guy, right? So the calling card for having that one
Right.
film made in 1980, which
Hmm.
may not have worked, may not have released, but it's that satisfaction that I invested in, one film, and that's my story. And because of that, he has got that one connection to Bollywood, and because of that, I mean, people come home, he calls them
Hmm.
over, meets them. Maybe he'll never make a film again, but it's a
Hmm.
calling card.
Hmm.
So 90%
Hmm.
people make a film for calling card. I call it Tushan capital, right? It's a form of capital called Tushan capital. I don't take Tushan capital because the returns for that happen before the box office, right? Because people are not interested
Hmm.
actually in the returns of the film. They're wanting the
Hmm.
experience and the calling card saying, I made a film. That's
Yeah.
it, right? So that's
Right.
one part. The 5% of producers are people who make films occasionally and in the same language. So he will do, let's say, one Marathi film now. 2, 3 years later, he'll put up another Marathi film. 4, 5 years later, he'll do a third Marathi film. But he knows Marathi, he believes in Marathi, and he assembles capital, looks at a story, creates a product, and he carries on. But he's like a one-off producer. Whether it makes a loss or profit, he's sort of wanting to be in the business, and he continues. The third, which are the 5% of the entire films
Hmm.
made,
Hmm.
are made
Hmm.
by people who are in the business. They do this for a living. They will
Hmm.
mount projects every year. They will release films every year. They will buy films every year. They distribute films. They'll sell films. They'll do everything with films. They are in this business, right? For them, this is their bread and butter. So whichever part of the film business, the whole stack of every single element in the film business, they will participate in it. They will go to all
Hmm.
the film festivals. They will meet everybody. They'll meet all distributors. They are the ones. So if you ever say that, okay, Pareto's, I mean, a squeezed Pareto's principle, which is
Hmm.
10% of the films really make 95% of the money at the box office. Those 10% are made by these 5% people who are like, let's say, the Karan Johars and the Yash Raj. And
Hmm.
in regional film, there's a lot of regional film producers also do that. So as long as your film is in the hands of these producers, it is generally safer than others. Not to say that they do not tank. It can also
Yeah.
tank. Bigger films from bigger people also tank. But
Sure.
largely it is safer than the risks are slightly lesser. They understand how to
Okay.
monetize, they understand how to mount, and so on and so forth. So that's the one
Okay.
part about the now. If you go to France or if you go to Europe, for example,
Hmm.
most of European producers are connected to the big five media
Hmm.
companies in France, right? If you go to the US, producers finally end up with one of the top 6 producers in the country. When you have that kind of let's say a creative and output control, in general, you don't lose your house. You're okay, right? You,
Right.
you
Right.
you
Right.
just sort of all right. You lose a little, win a little, and then you
Hmm.
are able to build something. I mean, if you look at the
Right.
Avengers and Marvel Cinematic Universe and look at the story from
Yeah.
2008 to now, it is a terrific story. But that is how it is
Hmm.
built. I mean, they know today what will happen in 2027, 28, which character will
Hmm.
have,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
show in 28, which character will go in 29. And if you look at the chart, it is a mind boggling chart of how billions and billions of dollars are being made over the last 10, 15 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
They know how to run. It's a
Right.
business. It is a
Yeah.
business. It is storytelling at its best. It
Hmm.
is franchise building. It is audience building. It is all of that. We are
Yeah.
not there yet. China this year had a movie called Wangzhou, which released in February 15th, and that has made $2 billion at the box office. $2 billion. In India, we're still celebrating 100 crore films.
Right.
We are
Right.
far, far behind. Now,
That's right.
so therefore, we have still a long way to go. I mean, but
Yeah.
the point is that gene pool of 5% producers can increase to 10%, 20%, or if state institutions can come on board and say, all right, now we are in the
Hmm.
business, and we will NFTC has done a good job so far, but largely in parallel cinema. So they
Okay.
encourage small filmmakers to make their unique stories, which don't have financial capital to even. So that's a
Hmm.
different path. It's not commercial cinema.
Right.
But big time commercial cinema, I think we're still long way to go. I mean, $500 million.
Okay.
But I still believe that by the end of this decade, maybe India will make its
Mm.
first $1 billion film. I mean, I still have that
Right.
belief, which is what I said in 2020 also. Now coming to
So
the...
the
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was actually just a related question. So, I mean, one aspect that I was curious about was then amongst all the different regional languages in which cinema is made, movies are made. What is I mean, if you put Hindi aside, which are the top three languages in terms of, either number of movies or budgets or also monetization? I mean, is there what's your sort of thumb rule
So
in
you
that
know,
zone?
the regional cinema has evolved very interestingly over time. It's very, very
Okay.
interesting story, slowly and
Yeah.
steadily. When I looked at regional cinema, I realized that 45% of the country speaks Hindi as a mother tongue. 55% of India does not speak Hindi as a mother tongue. Maybe another 10, 15, 20% speak Hindi, but not as a mother tongue. 55% of the Indians speak some other language as a mother tongue.
Some
Now,
other languages, right?
in that 55%, right, some of the largest languages, which are, let's say, in the 80 million and 90 million range, are Tamil and Telugu and Marathi, which are all in the 80 to 90 million range, right? Native speakers on that language. And what has also happened is that in those industries, like if you take Tamil Nadu and if you take Telugu, if you take the number of screens in India, India has a terrific screen problem, right? We had about 10,000 screens. And if you really look at it, 10,000 screens for a country like ours producing 1,800 films in a year is nothing.
Very small, yeah.
Those 10,000 in the pandemic came down to 8,500, right? They've dropped by about 15%. Cinemas have shut down for various other reasons. Now, the key thing is that at the end of the day, China also had 10,000 screens in 2010. They also had 10,000 screens, but China today has 105,000 screens. So China has added 95,000 screens in the last 15 years.
Wow.
And we are still at the same number, less than 10%, right? So China can do $1 billion film because they have infrastructure ready for it. If you travel out of Bombay and leave Bombay and go to, let's say, Lonavala, chances are between Bombay and Lonavala, there'll be one screen somewhere in between, right? And then from Lonavala, you go to Pune, maybe there'll be another one screen, right? Pune, there'll be a bunch of screens, and then if you go to a Satara, you'll get nothing. So we are like pockets of density and large pockets of no theater, right? So
No theaters,
they're very
yeah.
unevenly done because everybody is
Right,
come
right,
to
right,
the
right.
urban centers and creative scenes. So we don't have density, and that is why we don't do the $1 billion film, which hopefully if it gets even a little corrected and all that, maybe we will get there at some point. Now, in Telugu, in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, they own roughly 3,500 screens out of the 8,500. Just those two states, right?
Wow.
Infrastructure has developed very, very much. And there is a fundamental reason for that. Both the chief ministers of the states for a very long time were film actors, right? N.T. Ramarao and MGR. And both of them were prolific film producers. They had produced tons of films, directed, acted, they've done everything in the film business. So when they became chief ministers, they just aided the infrastructure. They helped create more infrastructure, more theater. So today, Telugu has about 1,700 screens and Tamil Nadu has 1,400 odd screens. You're talking about 3,500 screens roughly between the two compared to 8,500 in the whole country.
Right.
So now, in terms of number of screens and the number of people going to watch a movie, Telugu and Tamil Nadu top it. As a result, those industries which are produce of about 350, 400 films every year per language, 700 films are being made between both the languages. Every year, the quality of the film has only increased. So technical quality of the films made in Tamil and Telugu far superior, sometimes even Hindi. Hindi may throw all the money, they may throw all the money behind a film, but they'll never reach the technical finesse. So if you take music, people like Ilayaraja, Rahman, and the great music greats, if you're telling, like Vijendra Prasad, who's written all of these Bahubalis and RRRs and all that. You take quality of storytelling. I mean, I remember 1994, I had asked my sales team to buy Roja, the movie Roja, first day first show tickets. I said, I gave them a challenge because single screens, you never got tickets on first day first show. I said, Mani Ratnam, we got to see it first day first show. And the whole team scrambled all over the city. And we managed to get those, whatever, 7-8 tickets that we wanted when I was visiting Chennai at that time. And the whole point is that single screen theaters were full. I mean, they would be full with these movies. And Mani Ratnam had a condition saying, if your movie doesn't have Dolby surround sound, I'm not giving you the film. So theaters upgraded to Dolby.
Right.
PVR came much later. PVR came in 98, 99. But in Dolby surround sound, you're watching Roja in 1994, 95. Watching Bombay, you're watching those movies because they forced the technical quality of those films, forced theaters to upgrade. Better seats. So the experience was bigger. Of course, when PVR came, they really changed the game completely. But with that capital at that point of time, with those investments, those guys were doing it. So those two languages are typically the largest. That's why anybody, whether it's Netflix, Amazon, everybody goes to the language. In fact, Ted Sarandos recently came to India. He spent all 4 days in India and all 4 days in Hyderabad. I'm sure the Bombay guys are wondering, "Arey, yahan kyun nahi aaya?" So
Right. Wow. That's amazing.
that's the big zap. However, in terms of return, right, that's a different story altogether. Now, in terms of return, what happens is
so just to sort of unpack that, right? So just in terms of the total number of movies made, it's safe to assume that if you keep Hindi out from Indian cinema, then it's Tamil, Telugu, maybe Marathi, and then
not
Malayalam, Kannada. Is that
not Marathi. Absolutely done. I mean, very
Typical
small films
ones.
that just don't do anything at all. There's nothing mid-ground in Kannada. There's no mid-ground. It's just right there. And it's a very tough market. I remember launching Ready Mirchi in Bangalore, and you throw a stone at somebody in Bangalore, it'll hit somebody who doesn't speak Kannada, right? And then he said, "Acha, we radio mein kaun sa gana chalna chahiye?" It's like
right.
We used to wonder that, all right, if who speaks Kannada in Bangalore? That was the question.
Right.
And we were thoroughly confused in ready. Should we have a block of Kannada, Hindi, maybe little Tamil, maybe squeeze in half an hour of Telugu, maybe even some English songs. Right. What will work in Bangalore? We were like always constantly trying. It's like a mixed. So that, I think that state has not had. I mean, although there were some film stars who became politicians, but who actually never became politicians. They were always on the side. Had they become, maybe it would have been like Tamil Nadu and
right.
And AP. But they sort of didn't do that. Now, the fourth state, which is Malayalam, that is a unique study, right? So Malayalam, there are 35 million people who speak Malayalam, right? Now, 35 million people is not a big number. And we always knew that, that overpopulated state with 100% literacy always had a job problem. So half of them have actually landed in the Middle East, right?
Yes.
So Middle East is like a suburb of Kerala. It's like, you go to Kannur, and Dubai. It's like right up there, right? So Kerala, with 35 million population and a very, very highly literate state, produces some of the most terrific content in the country.
That's true.
Because of the stories, because of their ability to experiment. And, one of the things that they have an unfair advantage, and I would say unfair advantage, is because, 40% of the film is the location, right? And Kerala is so beautiful. So all films are beautiful to look at in general, right?
Yeah.
So they are very pleasing to the eyes. The landscape is very good. And the storytelling is just stunning. They give the highest bang for the buck. So for 35 million people, I always wonder, how does a film, does 10 million to the box office, right? How does it do 50 million to the box office? How does it do, the multiple to the population is amazing, right?
Okay. Interesting.
So, I mean, for 35 million people, I mean, if it does, let's say 100 million at the box office, you've done a 3x, right? How did you do 3x? How does it do 3x? There are movies that are 150 million. Now, it's fascinating. It's fascinating that a small state, with lesser number of screens, less than half the number of screens that Andhra Pradesh has, and 60% screens that Tamil Nadu has. But I think the singular thing that they managed to achieve is make the stories travel outside the state. So Malayalam stories have managed to crack the Hollywood formula of universal storytelling. When Hollywood makes a film, they only factor 40% of the revenue coming from the US. They factor 60% revenue coming from international markets. So when Disney makes a film, they want the girl in Philippines, the guy in South Africa, right? And somebody right in Eastern Europe, Tajikistan, also to laugh and cry at the same time, right? That is 60% of the revenue. So Disney's stories are universal. So whether it's Moana or How to Tame Your Dragon, everybody is laughing and crying at the same time, and the story travels. So Malayalam, I think, film industry has cracked this a little. They tell slightly more universal stories. So in the sense that they don't have songs in the films, generally. they don't necessarily. In fact, there were 7 movies last year. They didn't have a heroine in the film.
Okay, okay.
Here, if you see some Malayalam films which didn't have a heroine at all, I mean, that's how far they stretched the storytelling. So there was a film called Romancham, slight romantic horror, right? But there was no heroine in the film. There were 12 men, right? Then they made Manjumal Boys. There's 18 men, no heroine. There's not a single girl in the movie. They made Avesham,
Wow.
about 4 boys in college, not a single heroine in the film, right? And so on and so forth. So they have this ability to just focus on story and build a story. They made a superhero film called Milan Murli at the middle of the pandemic, and I think that Netflix bought for a really good price. And even Hollywood is wondering, how can you make a superhero movie at this budget, $500,000? Can you make a superhero?
Jeez.
And that movie, of course, did very well at Netflix because it didn't go to theater coming in the pandemic. But it created a great awareness of Malayalam films.
Interesting.
Then, while everybody knew about this, that you can make a superhero films in India, and of course, Hindi mein there has been a Krish 1, Krish 2, Krish 3 at some point, but for the last so many years, there's not. Then they made another superhero film called Loka this year, which has also cracked the box office like how. So, and this is a woman's superhero film. So they have managed to not only create a Superman, but also a Wonder Woman, in the same industry, which is just 35 million speakers in the world. And in Dubai, if you look at Dubai listings, I get Comscore data every week. And if you see Dubai listings, you'll realize that, 40% of the films are Malayalam, right? And 50% of the footfalls are Malayalam. Malayalam only competes with Hollywood in the Middle East, not even Hindi. Hindi is a poor cousin, right?
Gosh.
So that's how I think they've sort of done it. In terms of revenue, I would say the fourth, industry turn-wise would be Punjabi. So Punjabi, in a way, has also cracked the Hollywood formula. 50% of Punjabi film revenues comes from international markets. So Canada, US, UK, Australia, New Zealand. They contribute a significant 50%, up to 50%. I did a Punjabi film, and I got 53% of the revenue from international markets. And of course, these include smaller pockets like Italy. I mean, as an aside, did you know that all the butter and cheese plants in the whole of Italy are run by Punjabis? So that's that's how big a market is. Pakistan is another good territory for Punjabi films, and so on and so forth. So technically, when you look at revenues, you get 50% coming from outside, 50 from Punjab. Punjab is a 55 million speaking country, very small, but again, box office, can be very, very high. I mean, it typically 100 million is not a difficult number in Punjabi movies. So I think third multiple wise would be that. I think the worst multiple, I mean, I'm just naming it, is Bengali. And Marathi comes close. So Marathi and Bengali are languages that have pretty much the worst multiple on their investment. Marathi, however, is elastic in the sense Marathi has tested 100 crore, revenue at the box office. But Bengali is, 1/5 of that. So elasticity-wise, Marathi has the elasticity to go that far.
So how do you explain that? I mean, the elasticity is story-based. Is it because because there've been some instances, where older play has been adapted, musical, a couple of musicals have been adapted. They've done really well at the box office. Is it a function of just a few stories just breaking away?
Absolute story. I think one of the other reasons is that maybe, my reading, because when I make films which involve Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, I have realized that Maharashtra is not one state. I mean, people in different parts of Maharashtra react differently to different things. I think there is a slightly urban belt here towards the west coast. There is a Aurangabad, Latur, Natur belt there. There is a Kolhapur, Solapur. Actually, that belt is completely brought up on Telugu cinema. High action Telugu cinema. They like all the action because Telugu's territory is very close and all Telugu films come there. So the Kolhapur, Solapur, that belt is completely Telugu largely. Then there is Nagpur, which is more closer to Hindi than it is to Marathi.
That's right.
So there are 4 or 5 different, let's say, Maharashtras within Maharashtra. And for the film to travel through the state, it has to have a story that travels through the state, right? So it is not homogeneous. I mean, what will appeal to a Bombay, Pune, Thane, and Nasik will in general not appeal to Aurangabad, Latur, Bid, Nanded, right? And what will appeal there may not appeal to Kolhapur and belt area. And definitely all the three will not appeal to Nagpur because they are watching Hindi films.
And so, I mean, the pecking order that you described also is reflective then of the median budgets for each of these languages. So Tamil, Telugu might be at the higher budget, higher of the budgets. Malayalam at the
So,
maybe
so there, I'll tell you, it's a fallacy, right? It's absolutely a fallacy.
Okay.
I can tell you movies every year are done on. So, for example, one of my principles is not to do a film which costs greater than $500,000, right?
Wow.
So $500,000 is my peak. I don't spend more than that on
Okay.
one single film. Now, but
So that and these 8 movies that you've so far
for all
done,
that,
that's kind of like the range. Okay.
Punjabi slightly more tends to a million because of closer to a million, 3/4 of a million. Because
Okay.
slightly more. So because what happens in regional is stories are original, right? And you can actually mount your film. You don't necessarily have to worry about a star cast. Unlike in
Right.
Hindi, where you need a poster value to sell your film. In regional, you don't need poster value to sell your film. You can just make a
Right.
good quality film and it'll fly. Last year, there was a Marathi film called Baipan Bhari Deva, right? That film, nearly did $15 million at the box office, right?
Whoa.
So I'm saying that it's huge, and none of those actresses are, like people on whom
No.
a movie would sell a ticket, right? It's an assemble
Wow.
of great actors who've come together, assembly of great characters who build a film, but not like poster value actors. Not like you would.
Understood.
I want to see definitely this film. No, you will not do that with that. Similarly, in
Okay.
Tamil, there was a film called Love Today. Again, very very small, less than $500,000 film. Again, did
Okay.
$15-20 million at the box office. So,
Wow.
so these are all. I mean, every year there'll be examples like this. Of course, there is a star industry in all the industries. There is a
Huh.
there is a top 5 stars, 6 stars, and when you make films with those stars, the math is different.
Right.
The math is
Actually, just on I mean, the math part. So if a Marathi movie does a 15 million, and a Tamil movie does a 15 million, are you only counting the box office part, or this is overall, and
box
then
office. This
the
is only box office.
this is
Yeah.
this is only
See,
box office? Okay,
satellite
got it.
digital rights vary completely. There is no math to that.
Oh, okay,
There is absolutely no
okay,
math to
got it.
that. It is
Also, that
purely
was on
based
top of that 15 million.
on top of
Okay,
that,
okay,
and
got
that
it.
is completely driven by demand supply. So
Okay,
if a platform wants a certain language, certain film, they'll pick it up at whatever price. If a platform
right.
doesn't want it, you cannot sell it to them at any price. So it's purely demand
Okay.
supply. There is no fixed rule that some people peg it to box office, saying if the great box office, then I'll get it, etc., etc. But there's no formula. There is no.
But Naveen, I mean, this math is quite interesting, right? For 500,000, if you are able to get a 15 million outcome, right? For a large Hollywood studio to put 5 million and produce, 10 500,000 movies,
Yeah, that's the game. That is
right?
the fun. That is the fun.
That is fascinating.
Right. That is
That's the fun. That's the fun. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, so that actually somehow sort of also explains the philosophy of the fund itself.
right. Right.
Because then you need to get one or two movies right.
Right. That's it.
Okay,
So
I think we've just explained the thesis of your fund in a little bit.
let's say, for example,
That's
if you put in $15 million, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
for $500,000, you can make 30 films. You
Yes.
put $15 million at $500,000, you make 30 films. So even if one film does $15 million, you got your money back, right? Out of 30,
That's right.
out of 30, even if
That
one film
is
does, you got it.
fascinating.
Now another 10 films will not give you 15, maybe give you 8, 9, 10. You're already,
Yeah.
and then you get your satellite digital. You go as a slate. I mean, it is a distinct
Right.
possibility.
Right. Since we're sort of discussing different regions and different languages and so on, the 8 films that you did create, which was the most stressful on the business or the economic side of it,
Right.
which was the most stressful
Well,
of those projects?
I think generally the Marathi films tend to be the most stressful.
Okay.
Because, like I said, there are 5 Maharashtras technically. I hope nobody
That's right.
from the politics uses this and demands 5 states. But
our community is largely only entertainment supply chain, so I think you are in a safe zone. You are in a safe zone. Yeah.
so the thing is that if you look at people in let's say Nagpur, right, and they are constantly brought up on a diet of Hindi films, they are not so much interested in the Marathi stories that are being told, let's say, from a Pune point of view, the Puneri Marathi story, right? They don't even subscribe to the Kolhapur Marathi story. They don't know the Latur beat and
Hmm. Hmm.
movies don't travel. So when you
Yeah.
select a Marathi film, you have to be extremely careful saying that, okay, if I'm only going to make it for this, suppose I'm only going to make
Hmm.
it for Mumbai, Pune, Nasik, and Thane, right? This is just this part.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
let me just, the cost of that should be only so much.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'm not going to get a return from 4 parts of Maharashtra. So I'm only 1/4.
Hmm.
So my cost should be 1/4. My returns will be 1/4. I'll then do it, right? So most of the time,
Yeah.
that is the tricky mix to do. Okay, if
Okay.
this movie is going to travel in Kolhapur and Satara, all right. So if it's only that, then the cost should be 1/4. Everything should be 1/4. Then maybe I'll get a return. But a lot of people do 4 ka movie and they want to recover from 1/4 of the territory. It normally fails, and that's why it's the toughest state to make a movie in. People then
Okay.
do the other thing, which is they spend bigger budgets, saying, no, let's make a Hollywood type film. It doesn't work because the reason
Yeah.
why somebody sees a Marathi film is because he wants to connect to his roots. He wants to connect to
Right.
his culture. He wants to go back and listen to
Yep.
the stories from his hometown and deep rooted
Yeah. Yeah.
tales and
That's right.
folks and myths and all that. Now, if you make a Hindi film in Marathi, it'll not last in theaters for more than one day because people
That's right.
say,
That's
I can see this in Hindi for a better
yeah.
production quality. Hindi guy will
Hmm.
spend $15 million in making the film. I'll at least see
Hmm.
a better quality film. Whereas here, you're making a, $500,000 film and telling me a Hindi
Hmm.
story, not interested. I think like there's a new Marathi movie called Dashavtar, which is a classic, Konkan setting,
Hmm.
very local rooted Marathi film, low budget. And it's already
Hmm.
crossed 2 million at the box office, 2 or 2.5 million at the
Wow.
box office. So that's very good return
Right.
from
Right. Right.
box office point
So
of view.
then, right. Right. So then, was the Marathi project the most stressful one
It
of
is.
the eight, or
All Marathi projects are
it
normally
was?
stressful. The only Marathi project that was not stressful was the one that I did on Shivaji. Chhatrapati
Okay.
Shivaji Maharaj is our Avenger, India's Avenger,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
You are
That's right.
guaranteed box office. There is nothing that can go wrong. Now, of course,
Wow.
Shivaji Maharaj, there's one film that released this year. They are also rocked at the box
Right.
office.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that's I mean, a blue blooded hero who literally ruled all over India at some point of time, all the way till Afghanistan, right?
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
and right till Chennai, where Rajaram
Yeah.
had gone. I
Right.
think it's a great local hero. He's our Avengers.
Right.
And any tale of
Right.
the Avengers will never flop at the box office. I mean, I've been tracking, I think there have been 14 films made on Shivaji and his exploits over the last 15, 20 years. And each one of them has
Okay.
returned money at the box office, right?
Wow.
And there is a
Wow.
satellite and digital value, of course, that obviously tops it up. There is absolutely
That's right.
that's the only sure subject. I'm actually doing one. The next
Okay. Okay.
being Marathi is also a Shivaji film. Because
Okay.
that's, I mean, I can bet on the hero.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay.
That's more
Got it.
stressful. The
Okay.
other budget point of view is Bengali films. Bengali films, for whatever reason, although there are, significant number of people who speak Bengali.
Hmm.
I think 100 million people speak Bengali in India, and there is a market
Right.
of another 800 million people next door in Bangladesh. But I
Right.
think that market has not grown at all commercially. Bengali is a market
Okay.
that struggles to get a return at the box office.
Okay.
The budgets have to be very, very low. So low that sometimes the films, since production timeline is only 12, 13 days, you've got to finish the film in
Right.
12,
Right.
13 days, otherwise the cost goes up. And therefore,
Yeah.
it's a very stressful market. Amongst all the regional markets, that's a very stressful market.
Understood.
Gujarati and
Understood.
Punjabi are very good. They're growing. There used to be a time when they used to do only 6, 7 films in a year. But in the last 10 years, they've started doing 50, 60 films in a year. So even when
Wow.
you do 50, 60 films in a year, it's good because you're doing one film a week. It's still
Okay.
it's still a good volume, right?
Got it.
Compared to Telugu, which is 350 films in a week, which is
Hmm.
6, 7 films a week. Sorry, 350 films in a year, which is 6 to 7 films a week, which is still a fight.
Hmm.
Right? There's still
Right.
fight. You have to
Right.
fight
Right.
others and all that. Yeah.
Understood. Understood. And then um, post pandemic, how's the box office to streaming and cable and broadcasting rights? Talk a little bit about your read of the market, especially from a regional cinema standpoint.
So
How's the dynamics right now?
right. So I think it's been a fascinating transition. The market is
Okay.
like, the tectonic plates below the earth. It's like that. The underlying forces are far stronger. What is here on the
Right.
surface is what is here on the surface. So
Right.
I think a
Right.
few things have happened because of the
Okay.
pandemic. And
Hmm.
thing is that I'm just wondering, because I decided to become an entrepreneur, and just like a film story, the obstacles that a hero gets one after the other, some amazing things have sort of happened over time. So one of the first things that happened was the pandemic, right? In the
Hmm.
pandemic, a lot of production had happened. So
Hmm.
nearly 1,000 films were made during the pandemic. They were unsold.
Hmm.
They didn't get a theatrical release. The ones that went into production in 2019 and they were ready in early 2020, but for 2 years there was no window to theatrically release the film. Even
Hmm.
when the theaters opened, they opened at 50% occupancy. So a lot of people decided wait a little more. So
Hmm.
there was then suddenly a glut of supply on one side,
Hmm.
that there are a lot of ready films, good films, very good films, big
Hmm.
actor films, regional films, Hindi films. There was a glut of supply. Of course, on the other hand, theaters were shut, so there was no demand, in the sense nobody wanted,
Right.
there was no place you could distribute the films.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
OTT found their golden moment and they bought what they could and whatever they wanted, right? So OTT did pick up a lot of supply directly to the service. Like Milal Murli, which is a
Okay.
fantastic film, would have done outstanding at the box office, but went directly to streaming,
Ah.
right? So they picked up a lot of such.
So during this phase, was there a contraction in the regional cinema market?
So
I mean, regional
all
movie market.
all movies contracted. All movies contracted.
Okay.
Production literally
Okay.
stopped. For
Okay.
2020, 2021, there was hardly any production. 2021 middle, I think, we resumed production. But in that
Okay.
phase, two things happened. There was a glut of supply, and there was a massive demand from the OTT platforms. All of them suddenly go. Sony Live launched a service. Amazon became
Hmm.
aggressive. Netflix became aggressive. And they started buying content. Right?
Okay.
So both the pulls and pressures started happening. However, because people had made the movie for the theater, they had to now
Hmm.
give it up to streaming. For whatever price they got, and the theatrical window had finished. Then, as you emerged out of that, let's say in early 2022, 23, 2023, a lot of people came back to the theaters. Everybody was back in
Hmm.
the theaters. A big surge. At that point of time, this unsold supply, right, could not get a release because everybody preferred the new films.
Hmm.
So as a theater owner, as a distributor, I said, give me the fresh supply, give me the 2022 supply, right? So the
Hmm.
2020 and 2019, 2021 supply was still in the cans because they said, listen, we have new film, why should I take? So at one point, I remember
Hmm.
there were 180 Malayalam films unsold, right? And a lot of producer
Wow.
money stuck, and neither had satellite bought it, nor was the theatrical release. And theaters were looking at new films, freshly made films, not the older ones. So it became like they there was like a massive stress at the system for the theater box office.
Okay.
People had not yet come to the theater, so even the new ones that were coming, new movies that were
Hmm.
coming, capacity was still not there. In fact, if you look at
Okay.
PVR's annual report of last year, they are still
Hmm.
16% down on occupancy levels from 2019. So
Okay. Okay.
however, the revenue is the same. So basically how
Oh,
PVR has grown is by average ticket price, ATP, right?
average ticket
and
price.
and
Okay.
spend per.
And then, got it. So, I mean, right now, size of the Indian regional cinema market,
Right.
if you would had to sort of both size and growth rates, what would you peg that at?
So I think the let's say the total Indian film industry is roughly I think 20. I mean, let's say 13,000 crores in the box office and
Okay.
70,000 crores of F&B and all that. So 19, 20,000 crores, right? Roughly. That's the total
Okay.
size of the industry, right? 3,500 crores of the box office is Hindi, right?
Hmm.
Or 4,000 maybe, yeah. So 7,000 to 7,500 crores is regional.
Okay.
I mean, literally 6,000 of that will be Tamil and Telugu. 1,000 crores would
Wow.
be Malayalam, and the rest
Hmm.
of all put together maybe about 1,000.
Okay. Interesting. And then, from a growth rate perspective,
So
what
they're
would
growing
you?
faster. So the way I always peg it is that if you look at India's GDP growth, if you let's say, I mean, I'll go by whatever number the government is saying, let's say 7%. So if you look at
7%.
7% and draw a line across the country, you'll realize that the south states are growing faster than the GDP growth of the country. So GDP grows at
Yes.
7, south grows at 9, 9.5, 8.5, 9. So their growth is faster than the country's GDP growth, and therefore they have more disposable income. Therefore they spend more on movie tickets. And so even in the Bay Area, I remember people don't mind spending $20 for a ticket, right,
Right.
per head. So that's, $50-$60 if two, three people go together for a movie. And that's
That's right.
because
That's
of the disposable income, right?
that's
In
right.
India, it's the same thing. If you're growing at 2%, 3%, if your state is growing only at that number, then
Right.
obviously there is no disposable income and movies come last. Movies is not like one of
Right.
those. Although Indians don't have a hobby in general, so the only hobby India has is to go and watch a film. Right? But yet there should be
Yes.
money to watch the film. So the
And more theaters, as you
located
were
and
rightly
access,
saying earlier,
reach.
and more
They don't have
theaters.
reach. They
And
don't have
that's
money.
right.
So obviously that's why it's not booming.
Yep.
I mean that's where
That's right. That's right.
that's where we are. So I guess
Streaming has actually sort of taken that as a big
streaming has taken,
sort of.
but streaming also. Now the next phase of that was streaming also found their own reality, right? At a certain price point. If
Yep.
I drop the price point maybe by 50-70%, I will reach the next 300 million. And if
Understood.
I go free, I'll reach 1 billion. YouTube,
Yep.
okay, I'm 1 billion, I can reach 1 billion. Yeah, because 1 billion
Yeah.
people would love YouTube. They would love YouTube, right?
That's right.
And that becomes their
That's right.
primary focus, primary source of content, primary platform for content creation and consumption. How much is Hindi and how much will be for Bengali and Telugu and Tamil
Reached
and
out.
Malayalam and all, you
Yeah.
find that. Although those industries have built a solid movie going habit. So they will never leave the
Mm,
movie for OTT. They will
mm,
watch
mm.
the movie in the theater.
In
They'll
the
come to
theater.
OTT for something else. So therefore, their
Right. Right. Right.
propensity to subscribe to an OTT platform is only to watch movies that they missed out on, not too much to watch series,
Mm.
right?
Got it.
And whereas in other places, it could be to watch
Mm.
everything. So OTT with all the push and might and all, they reach that boundary wall.
That segment.
They reach the boundary walls.
Got
Okay,
it.
now
Especially for the paid, as you said,
paid,
for the
actually
paid
paid.
subscribers.
Free to free,
Right. Right.
everybody's free, right? So for the paid, there is a boundary
Correct.
wall,
Correct.
and then they realize, all right, can we then become television?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so now
Hmm.
people have started commissioning television-like content, right? So
Right.
shows like Kapil Sharma, Crime Patrol, Ekta Kapoor
That's right. That's right.
on Netflix now, because they're hoping that maybe that segment can.
Let's replace that part, and yeah.
It's not easy. We will see how it goes, because the content here is largely international, high quality content with a lot of sex and nudity and all of that, which doesn't go
Hmm.
well with the sanitized TV audience which watches together as a family. They can't be
Yes. Yeah.
suddenly exposed to suddenly what was that.
A lot of the other stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
So
Correct.
this,
So, yeah. In this next segment, Naveen, what I wanted to do is to also understand about 91 films. Two or three sort of rapid fire questions on that one. Where does the name come from? 91 films.
So
What's
I was
the
actually because we are a regional film studio, and plus
yeah?
91 is India's country code, right? So we said
Okay,
we are
okay, okay.
India's country code, and so we said, all right,
Understood.
91 is
That's a clever. Okay, I understand that now.
yeah.
Okay. And then the other question that I had was, again, some of the things that you said are going to resonate and clarify for a lot of our users and members, right, for our community. I think your some of the examples that you gave about 15 million on a 0.5 million investment in regional cinema, especially if the going goes good, there could be a pretty interesting
It's
outcome at the box.
a regional fund at that price point is absolutely something that's good.
So let me ask you the question that will be in the minds of lots of financiers who will be sort of listening to you on this podcast. Are you raising money right now? Where are you right now from in the journey of 91 films? What's your next 2-3 years plans from that perspective?
So the pursuit of regional continues. I have not
Okay.
changed the pursuit in spite of everything.
Okay.
I'm interested in doing films because I believe fundamentally films are a B2C product, right? I
Okay.
make a film and go directly to consumers to buy a ticket and watch the film.
Hmm.
I believe OTT and television are all B2B products because the audience is sitting behind the platform and the algorithm decides what content is to be made. So as a producer, you don't even get credits, you don't even get creative control, you don't even get anything because the algorithm decides
Hmm.
the audience is sitting behind the algorithm, right?
Hmm.
Whereas as a film
Hmm.
producer, you're making it, you own the IP, you go out there, you
Hmm.
buy your ticket, and you keep the money, you keep the IP, and it's your product, and so on. So I love this whole B2C aspect of content creation that films provide that nothing else provides. nor advertising, nor
Right.
OTT, nor television, nor microphone.
Mm,
Now,
mm, mm.
in that, the theme of regional is also watertight, because I believe regional always gives original stories.
Yep.
And regional is an international phenomenon. What I mean by that is, in 2019, the film that won the Oscar was Parasite. It didn't win the best international film. It won the best film Oscar, which means your best film Oscar, the best film award at the Oscar for the first time was given to a Korean film, not an
Right.
English film, right? Which means
Right.
things had changed. And I'm talking about 2019.
Yeah.
It's not even pandemic time. So before the pandemic,
Right.
and Bun Ki-woo at the acceptance speech, he only said this. He said, if you are willing to climb below the 1 feet of subtitles at the bottom, there is great content you can discover. Right? That's what he said.
Wow.
And that's what is happening, even now. So regional is going to be my theme. Original subjects come from here. A lot of Hindi is remake of regional language content. I can make content at a far lesser price point, make it work at the box office. And I own the IP, so I can always exploit it in multiple languages. So I can always sell it to Hollywood,
Right.
sell it to Bollywood, sell it to other language industries, and so on and so forth. I can also remake it in multiple languages and so on and so forth. So that is the theme, one. Point two is that it is always slate, right? I always want to work on a slate. There will be, multiple languages in it. Like I said, each time we decide a bouquet of films and put that together and raise capital for it and do that. I started to solve those 3 problems that I mentioned in the beginning. And the idea was to do a $25 million fund, right? That is the destination. I mean, I want to get there. I mean, the pandemic and this oversupply and the OTT and habit change and behavior, all that is now in the past. This year, I mean, as of this year and to September, the box office collections in India are equal to the box office collections of 2019, which was the highest ever, Jan to September. So we have actually recovered. The US is still not recovered. But we have recovered back at the box office. And the biggest change is in 2019, 1/4 of the films had contributed to a high share of the box office. This year it is more spread. There are more regional films participating in the top 10 films at the box office. I think regional films are 60% of the box office now, compared to 20% in 2019. So in 2019, regional films were only 20% of the box office. I mean, top 10. I'm saying only top 10. And now top 10 is 60% of the box office. So we are actually now the whole play of regional that I said on Jan 20th, as middle of the decade, has really played out very, very well. Right? Also, parallelly, what has also happened is scale. So regional film returns have also started matching and beating scale of Bollywood films, beat the multipliers. So if Bollywood is 1x, 2x, regional film is 4x, 5x, 25x. There really is no limit to how regional film can perform, as long as what Boone said on that day of the winning the Oscar, saying climb the subtitles and there's great content. So I think that is the ethos. So it is slate, it is regional, it is across, and it is, we're building that. So I want to go and build back that $25 million slate. $25 million fund.
And so you will continue to raise money in this fund.
Right now I was raising for smaller slates, but I want to build the fund and go back again to the original.
And do you have like a number? Do you have like a number in terms of how many films on an annual basis would you produce? Is there like a are you sort of putting some of these goals, or
there is a full business plan? But like I said, one thing we must remember: movies is not a volume business, right?
Yes.
It does not necessarily mean that the more movies you produce, the more you get at the box office. It's a fallacy.
Of course.
It does not exist. Right? A24 is a brilliant studio in the US. And if you look at A24, in the last 10 years, they produced 50 films, right? 18 films of them have won the Oscar, right? So that's the quality of their filmmaking. And some like Everything Everywhere All at Once has really done wonderfully well at the box office. In fact, this year, they had a film called Warfare, terrific film. So they got a VC investment of $225 million last year. So I guess that's the model. Is the right model. Saying even Yash Raj, when you look at Yash Raj in India, I mean, they must be 1950, so 70 years old, maybe 75 years old. In 75 years, Yash Raj has maybe made 50, 60 films, 60 films maybe. Right. So it's not that volume doesn't work in this business. It's not a volumes game at all. So it is Amir Khan, people used to say he makes a film once every 4 years, right? And people used to say, what a guy he is. But the film he used to make every 4th year, he used to set a new record every time at the box office. So it's not a
That's
volumes game. It is just a value game. You have to create a good product, tell a good story, and reach out
Mm.
to the maximum possible audience. And there's money to be made at the box office.
Got it. Got it. No, that is fascinating. My last question really was relating to the roadmap that you have in front of you. You know, what does your immediate slate look like? What is in production right now that's coming out
So
soon?
we have a Marathi film releasing now. I
Okay.
mean, by the end of this year, it will be released. We have a
Okay.
Telugu film under production. We
Okay.
have just about finished participating in a Tamil film that finished production. We
Okay.
are working on mounting a Bengali film that goes into production January or February next year.
Okay. Okay. This is it's an exciting business. It's exciting phase for you, Naveen. You know, I think you tell a great story, not just about your business and the start of it, but also about regional cinema. Thank you so much for speaking to us, giving us all the great happenings, in this space, and all the very best for all of the releases that are happening, as well as the productions that you are part of.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you for having me. It is such a pleasure to talk to you, and such a pleasure to discuss films. Yeah, it's amazing.
Absolutely. This is we're signing off on Vitrina Leader Speak. A great session with a great leader. Thanks, Naveen.
Thank you, Atul. Bye bye.